Yeah, guys, peace. So it's been ruled that Shamima Begum, a British-born woman who left the UK when she was 15 to join the Islamic State of Iraq, also known as ISIS in the Levant of Syria, had an intention to return to the UK in 2019, which resulted in a public debate about the handling of returning jihadists. Now, she said that she was groomed at 15 to go out and join ISIS, and there's been a huge uproar on whether she should be allowed back into the UK or not. And it has been officially reported 4 days ago, I should say, that she will not be allowed to return to the UK in a citizenship case. The Supreme Court has ruled this a unanimous ruling and said that her rights were not breached and permission has been refused for her to return. So here we can see Shamima Begum, who left the UK to join the Islamic ISIS state, will not be allowed back. So it said Ms. Begum was born in the UK to parents of Bangladeshi heritage. When she was 15, she and two other schoolgirls left the UK for Syria to join IS. Ms. Begum traveled via Turkey to IS headquarters in Raqqa, where she married a Dutch recruit. She lived under IS rule for more than 3 years and was found 9 months pregnant in a Syrian refugee camp in February 2019. They say the baby later died of pneumonia, and Ms. Begum said she had previously lost 2 other children. So let's see if we can play this clip.
This is the story of how a 15-year-old girl home became an international terrorist, and how her fight to return raises a fundamental question about justice. On a cold February morning in 2015, Shamima Begum left her home here in Bethnal Green in London for the final time. She secretly flew to Turkey with 2 friends, and within days they'd been smuggled into Syria. They'd fallen for the propaganda of the self-styled Islamic State group.
Now some say it's not their fault, they were
The militants told a well-crafted lie. Be part of our utopia, they said. So you're shot or decapitated for disagreeing. And every Brit who joined them encouraged others to follow.
2 weeks ago, we got a clash here.
Leave your decadent Western lifestyle behind, they said. Marry a foreign fighter. Have babies. And within a few weeks, Shamima Begum went from GCSEs to jihadi bride.
Wow.
This Dutch fighter, 7 years older, took her as his own. It wasn't going to be a happy ever after. The regime began to collapse as an international coalition bombed it to bits. Both Shamima's friends are now believed to be dead. Her own babies, a boy and a girl, died within weeks of each other. And as 2018 ended, her thoughts finally turned to home and the country that she'd rejected.
I just want forgiveness, really.
It sounds like she went to return if things didn't go the way she wanted.
I didn't expect I would go through that and, you know, losing my children the way I lost them.
Shamima Begum survived the fall of the self-styled Islamic State. Her third baby, born in the squalid camp that was now her home, didn't. And back here at Parliament, her interviews caused uproar.
They hate our country and the values that we stand for.
Shamima said she wanted to come back home, but ministers said she was still a threat, and so they used an exceptional power to deprive her of her British citizenship, and that meant she could never get back in. That's been used more than 150 times against other terrorism suspects, men like these.
So I was definitely an enemy of Britain.
What did you do in IS?
Question I prefer to decline to answer at this present stage.
But this is where it gets legally complicated. The government took away Shamima's British citizenship because of her heritage. They said she could ask Bangladesh for a passport, but Bangladesh doesn't want her. She could even be hanged if she turned up. It was all going to end up in the courts.
Oh wow, I didn't realise that Bangladesh had denied her citizenship too.
Shamima Begum is fighting to remain British. Her lawyers say she's prepared to face justice, but she can't defend herself from a dangerous refugee camp in northern Syria. The Court of Appeal ruled that the only way in which she can have a fair and effective appeal is to be permitted to come into the United Kingdom. In short, fairness and justice must outweigh national security concerns.
But we do know that that didn't actually happen.
And that's why the case ended up at the Supreme Court. Under the law, we're all entitled to a fair hearing, whether we're good or bad. But does that mean the government should help Shamima Begum leave her camp to take part in this legal battle in London?
The Supreme Court unanimously allows all of the Home Secretary's appeals and dismisses Miss Begum's cross-appeal.
It said her right to a fair hearing doesn't trump the Home Secretary's concerns about the risk of bringing her back. And so the court has paused her entire case until she can find a way to take part from abroad.
Shamima!
And that leaves her in legal limbo.
I think with this being, you know, a huge safety concern, especially at a time like this, you know, it's no surprise that they have made that decision. I think it was the best decision for them to make. So yeah, guys, I personally feel that she shouldn't be allowed back. You know, she knew what she was doing when she had left, and if she still poses such a threat, you know, it sends out the wrong message that people can come to the UK and sort of, you know, involve themselves in international terrorism acts and just sort of walk back in when it doesn't work out the way that they wanted it to. Now I know some will argue and say, oh well, she was young, she was green, she didn't know what she was doing, but she seems like she clearly had made a choice.
I found her in a sport.
Maybe she didn't anticipate it to go down the way that it did, but you know, nonetheless, it went down that way. So let's see this. It says, how many people have left IS to return home? Many foreigners who traveled to Iraq and Syria to join IS did so secretly, but data from King's College estimates that 52,808 men, women, and children traveled to the areas of Iraq and Syria between 2013 and 18. And it estimated about a fifth of it had returned home or were trying to do so. Now, it's definitely a shame when people make choices and, you know, sometimes it can be difficult to reverse them. So we don't want to just condemn anybody if they're trying to make a change or a difference. What do you guys think about the situation? This is a quote from Anthony Lloyd of the Times. He's describing how he found Shamima Begum when he did in a Syrian
refugee camp called Al-Hol in northern Syria, which is home to 39,000 people, the majority women and children, the majority of those civilians who have fled ISIS areas. She had fled the battle in Baghouz in eastern Syria, which is concluding now, which is for the last territorial slither of the caliphate. She had fled that 2 weeks ago and turned up in Al-Hol camp. Nobody appeared to know she was there. No contacts have been made with British officials or aid workers.
And when you were presented with her, did you know precisely who she was, or just that she was one of the three girls who'd left East London to head to Syria?
She spoke to me, she was veiled. She spoke to me in a London accent. I said, "You're a London girl, aren't you?" And she said, "I'm a Bethnal Green girl." And then I knew. So then we talked. There was no one else, just her and I. And I said, "Can you lift your niqab so I can see your face?" And she said, "Yeah, I'm Shamima Begum." Lifted her niqab.
And she told you that she wanted to come home?
She wants to come home. I'm desperate to get back to the UK. She's 9 months pregnant, going to give birth imminently, and both her infant children have died in the last 8 months in the ISIS pocket that's just collapsed down in eastern Syria.
Does she believe that she will be allowed home?
She does know. She's very worried about it. She wants to come back to the UK to give birth to her child. Well, I think it's so imminent. I don't think that's going to happen. She doesn't want her third child to die in Syria. She's worried that she'll be separated from her baby. She's worried she might go to prison. She doesn't know what her legal status is, and neither does anyone else.
And yet, Anthony, she didn't seek you out, and she made no effort in her interview to say, "I've made a terrible mistake, please forgive me."
Oh no, she's an indoctrinated ISIS bride. People should be very clear-eyed about this. She's two things. She is the 15-year-old schoolgirl who was groomed and lured to the caliphate, And 4 years later, with that background, she is an indoctrinated jihadi bride.
There's something shocking hearing her describe seeing a severed head for the first time.
Oh, wow.
Did she look like someone with any regrets about what she'd done, what she'd seen, what had been done in the name of IS?
She didn't express regret. She said she had no regrets. She was calm and composed, but she was also in a state of shock. She'd just come out of the battlefield, 9 months pregnant, many of her friends dead, through airstrikes and all the rest of it. So I wouldn't want to rush to judge her too harshly. And we must remember she's a 15-year-old schoolgirl when she left the UK. We must bear that in mind.
Do you believe it is possible, on the basis of the more than an hour that you spent with her, that if she were to return home, that indoctrination that you described could be undone, that she could return successfully to society in Britain?
Personally, having spent a lot of time with jihadis and jihadi wives, I think it's entirely possible that Shamima Begum could come back to the UK and with some focused help be able to re-assimilate into Britain and live her without being a threat to the country.
Of course, she went over with 2 other schoolgirls. Do you know their fate?
She went over with 2 other schoolgirls to join a 4th schoolgirl from Green Academy. One of those girls was killed in an airstrike, I think at the beginning of 2016. The 2 other girls, Shamima, married foreign fighters. Both those fighters were killed, so they became teenage widows. Both the surviving girls, Shamima told me, had elected to stay on in the last slither of the caliphate and face the final battle rather than try and escape.
She told you that that caliphate is now over. Is it, in your view?
The caliphate is now over. I don't think there's any doubt of that. The vast territorial expanse and administration of the caliphate is over. That does not mean that Islamic State are over, nor that Islamic State will continue to exist in a form to which they have reverted before. It is true to say the caliphate is over. It is true to say Islamic State will remain.
You are a reporter, not a politician. But what would you say to people at home who might say, her choice, she went, she's not coming back?
I would say she was a 15-year-old schoolgirl who made a terrible mistake. She was a child of British society, and we must do our best to rehabilitate her amongst our own people.
So there we see Lloyd from the Times giving his thoughts, and you can find more of this article on BBC and other mainstream media outlets. So he says he feels that she could be rehabilitated under the right settings if she was to be let back in. So, that's something that may be explored in the future. Just to end on this, it says, how do you lose your citizenship? It says in the UK, someone can have their citizenship stripped by the Home Secretary for the following reasons. If it's for the public good and would not make them stateless, if the person obtained their citizenship through fraud, their actions could harm UK interests, and if they can claim citizenship elsewhere. So with that, under those sort of terms, it says that the UK has been, right in stripping Ms. Begum from her citizenship because she was a citizen of Bangladesh by descent. But Bangladesh have said that this is not the case and she would not be allowed into their country. So it's still quite an interesting case and situation. With that being said, we've seen other people that have been born in the UK. Does that mean, you're not classed as a UK citizen because you could claim your heritage placed by descent? Or is that just in these extreme circumstances and cases like this? So let us know your thoughts, guys. Do you think Ms. Begum should be allowed back into the UK? Or do you think that the Supreme Court has made the right decision? So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Everybody stay safe and stay healthy and stay positive. Peace.